What health problems can stress cause? If you've been feeling a little extra stress these days, then you may have been wondering that very question. If that sounds familiar, then you are in the right place because I am here to answer that question in today's video. Plus, I'm going to share with you one of the easiest ways to end stress immediately. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause, chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine, and specialized in clinical nutrition. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the top 10 health conditions that stress can completely bring about. Then I'm going to cover with you a little known connection that is keeping you feeling stressed without you even knowing it. And finally, I will be sharing with you one of the easiest tricks for helping you reduce your stress immediately. Let's dive on in. What are the top 10 health conditions that stress is completely at the cause of? Well, here's the thing. First, what you should know is 93% of all visits to the doctor are for stress-related illnesses. So this is a major issue that while I don't think stress is going to go away anytime soon, unfortunately, we can figure out how to manage it. And it's incredibly important knowing that statistic on its own to figure out how do we manage this and get a grip over stress and not let it actually have these negative compounding effects on our health. So the first one that I want to share is probably not one that is going to be so incredibly shocking. It's insomnia or any kind of issue with your sleep. This can appear with people who have issues falling asleep, but once you're asleep, you do okay. Or maybe you're the person who can fall asleep just fine, but you wake up in the middle of the night and then the brain kicks on and man, you're done. There is no sleep for you once you're up. Or guess what? This can also be part of the underlying cause of people who can go to sleep just fine. They could sleep 8, 10, 12 hours. And when they wake up, they don't feel like they've slept hardly at all. They're not feeling restored and recharged. Underlying stress can be the root cause of all of these particular issues with sleep. One of the second most common issues that come about from stress are eating types of disorders. Now, this can be anything from caving to those cravings for the sweet, salty snacks that you just love when you're feeling stressed, or when stress levels get so high for some people, it just completely gets rid of their appetite and they go hours, sometimes even a day without eating anything that they need to be eating. Now, part of this happens because of how stress directly involves and affects the digestive system. That's a whole other topic for another day. Just know that dealing with cravings, binging on certain foods, which we know we shouldn't, caving to that sweet tooth or that salt sensation that you just have to have the crunch in your mouth, or not having an appetite at all, absolutely is something that can come about from ongoing chronic levels of stress. The number 3 top health concern that relates to stress would be depression. We're going to get into a little bit more of how this is all connected in the second tip, so I won't spend too much time here. But your mood absolutely is affected by stress, which I'm sure all of you can relate to, whether it's depression or it's anxiety or it's irritability, not feeling like you can maintain your cool as easily, all relates back to underlying levels of stress. And guys, the stress doesn't even have to be huge amounts of stress. It could just be chronic levels of stress, which who doesn't have that anymore in the world that we live in today? The fourth health concern related to stress I just kind of mentioned would be anxiety and panic attacks. Oh man, if there was ever a health concern that comes about directly related to stress, this would be it. Creates huge amounts of anxiety and stress in the system. And when you're feeling that way, you actually have a heightened response to stress than what you would otherwise. So it kind of compounds itself. Number 5, maybe is something you're not completely aware of, but you could be getting sick more frequently. Being more susceptible to colds and viruses, different types of infections. Part of what happens with stress is it weakens our immune system or dampens our immune system's response. So it's no wonder that when we are kind of running on empty and, running ragged, that we can end up being sick. And maybe you're not the person who gets colds very often, but this can still show up with, if you get a cold, it lasting longer than what it would otherwise could also be a sign that stress has definitely weakened that immune system. Another one you're probably familiar with, number 6 coming in, would be circulatory problems. Now, this is everything from high blood pressure to the obvious worst scenario of a heart attack or a stroke, all extremely precipitated by stress. In fact, it's one of the most common underlying contributing factors to heart disease, which that's the number 1 killer in the United States for both women and men. So being able to get stress in check so that you don't put yourself at risk becoming a statistic is incredibly important for your future health story. Now, number 7 is along the lines of infections, but these are different. So with stress, we already talked about the immune system being weakened, but how this also can present is, say you get like a wound, whether it's an abrasion, or maybe you even get a bug bite. And it's just really slow to heal. So the healing process slows down. And sometimes people are more at risk for getting a localized tissue infection that would be known as cellulitis, or worse, can get sepsis, which is full-blown, full body infection. It's in the blood. These are life-threatening situations. And stress is something that just can predispose that type of occurrence from happening. Now, number 8 is diabetes, and this is type 2, not necessarily type 1, though it can wreak havoc on type 1 as well. Ultimately, what happens is constant levels of stress really wreak havoc on our ability to regulate our blood sugar levels. And in fact, stress is something that can actually increase blood sugar without you actually consuming all of it, because there's this dysregulation that is occurring. And ongoing high levels of blood sugar, we know, ends up putting us into that category of being a diabetic. Number 9, kind of alluded to, but just a little bit different with heart problems. This can also show up as arrhythmias or tachycardia, where you've got an extremely high pulse rate. Your heart's just beating super fast. It can also show up through cholesterol levels, believe it or not. And cholesterol, while I believe it is not the best indicator to determine how healthy our heart is, because 50% of people who have heart attacks actually have perfect levels of cholesterol. It's really not the best indicator. But if you have high cholesterol and you have stress could be part of the underlying reason as to why your cholesterol level is higher than normal. And then number 10 would be the second most common cause of death within the United States, which is cancer. And part of this is, again, we've got the immune system being compromised when we're dealing with high levels of stress. But then everything else that goes into what happens in our body, what food are we consuming, what does the environment within our system look like, it ends up being more favorable for cancer to grow in. We are all fighting cancer every single day. We have cells that mutate on a regular basis. And when our immune system can do its job, it keeps them in check. It gets rid of them. It destroys them. But when you have all these other factors come about, it can skew the immune system's focus away from taking care of that job. And now you've got cells that are mutated that then are allowed to reproduce and ultimately can show up as cancer. Now, before I get into the little known connection that's keeping you feeling stressed, I just want to remind you to click that subscribe button down below, turn the notifications on, and give me a big thumbs up while you're down there. I greatly appreciate your support. And here's the thing. I am regularly producing videos to help you be able to take back control of your health. And I don't want you to miss out on a future one. So make sure you click that subscribe button, turn the notifications on, and give me a big thumbs up. Awesome. We get to see you on future episodes that way. So cool. Now, what is this little known connection that is keeping you feeling stressed? Well, maybe you've heard it related to immune system or brain function potentially, but maybe not directly related with stress. The connection is between your brain and your digestive system. That brain-gut connection that is starting to be talked about so much more just in the last handful of years. What we realize is there is more connection between your brain and your digestive system, your gut, than there is anywhere else in the entire body. In fact, there are doctors and researchers, scientists that really want to call the digestive system like the second brain of the body. And as far as how does this relate to stress, many ways, but something you should know about this. There are actually patches of these different communication centers in the digestive system, for keeping this simple, that give you that butterfly sensation or that pit in your stomach that make you feel and have this mood type of experience. And there's more connections going from the gut to the brain that do that than the brain going to the gut. So the gut has a lot of influence over your mental headspace. Now, how is it that stress amplifies this problem? Well, when we're stressed, one of the main things you should know of how it affects your digestive system is it takes blood flow and it pushes it away from the digestive system. Your body, when you're dealing with stress, you're going into this flight or fight survival kind of mechanism. And we are literally gearing ourselves up to fight whatever we have come in contact with, or to hightail it out of that stressful, kind of survival type of experience. So our body is literally diverting blood to our arms and our legs so that we can either fight or flee. Well, it takes it from the rest of the body, which means it's also taking it from your gut and your digestive system. So if your body's in this state, this flight or fight state, your digestive system is not going to have normal function, which can be part of why people experience digestive types of problems related to stress. I know of people who have had a stressful event happen and they end up in the bathroom where their bowels are basically evacuating themselves immediately. Like, how does that work? It's part of this whole mechanism. But when the gut is not working the way that it should, that communication between the gut and the brain that is happening more times than you can even imagine all day long, 24/7, that is negatively impacted as well. And I'm sure you felt this, like the butterflies in your stomach or the pit in your stomach that you get, those feelings of anxiety and stress. You feel it in your gut at times, more so than your mood shows. So it's really fascinating how these two systems in the body are so intimately connected. And ultimately what that means is if your gut is not healthy and it's not functioning the way that it should, you're never going to feel calm. You're still going to deal with depression or anxiety, even just lack of focus and concentration, mental clarity. All of that is affected by the health of your digestive system. So what I'm getting at with this is we need to make sure we're doing what we can to not only manage stress, but make sure we're taking care of our digestive system. Because the healthier that our digestive system is, the better off our brain is going to function, which is really what we need when we're dealing with stress. We've got to be able to think clearly, right? So that's that little known connection that is probably part of what's really contributing to you feeling stressed. And I'm super curious, did you have any idea that gut health had that much impact over not only how you're handling stress or dealing with stress, but just your brain function altogether? Let me know down in the comments below. Can't wait to hear from you. Now, what is the easiest way to start knocking out stress immediately? Well, it ties everything we just talked about together. One of the biggest variables that has major impact over are we resilient to stress? Are we being taken out by it? Is what we're choosing to eat. Yeah, it comes down to our diet. Food is like the number one variable for all things health related, in all honesty. But coming off of that second point and your digestive system having major influence over how your brain is functioning, and really, guess what? That's where your immune system lives too. Like the digestive system is a center source that it's like your first line of defense. We've got to take care of it. And the variable that affects digestive system the most is the food that we're putting in it to digest. It's like having a sports car. If you put in crummy fuel, you're not going to have great performance of that sports car, right? Well, the same is true for us. And there are specific foods that are really irritating to the digestive system. So if the digestive system is irritated and now it's not functioning correctly, and then you layer stress on top of that, it's no wonder people end up feeling depressed and anxious and having panic attacks, and then all the other factors of heart problems and cancer, infections. It's all related together. So if you could just work towards improving diet, and you don't even have to be perfect, but doing what you need to 80 to 90% of the time, you will become more invincible just by putting in that measure. Now, what does that look like? Don't worry, I've got you completely covered. The biggest thing with diet is we want to eat foods the way that they occur in nature. Whole foods, foods that are not already pre-done for us, pre-packaged, convenience type foods, all of the processed stuff. We know, like, you know, the foods that we are not supposed to be eating. The easiest way to go about this is if you're doing grocery shopping on your own, stick to the perimeter, minus the bakery. Nothing good comes from the bakery, even though you may enjoy the taste. It is not soothing to the gut. In fact, it's some of the most inflammatory producing foods that are going to wreak havoc on your digestive system. And then I always say that death happens in the aisles. Really, the only aisle that is safe for you, and it's only parts of it, are where your fats are. Okay? So you want to eat good, healthy fats. We want to eat a ton of vegetables, specifically the ones that grow above the ground, more so than ones that grow beneath the ground. We want to keep fruits to more of a minimum than what we've been taught, just because they have a lot of natural occurring sugars. And sugars are a great way to irritate the digestive system, even when they're naturally occurring. And then we want to eat clean sources of proteins. Clean meaning that livestock, that animal, the fish, whatever it is where you're getting meat from, was raised the way that God intended it to be. Not injected, not fed stuff it's not supposed to be consuming, not farm raised, not in a feedlot. Clean proteins are really, really good for us. They don't cause detriment to our system. Now, if you're wanting to know more of what in the world does that actually look like, I've got you. Like I said, look in the description below this video. Okay, click on it so it expands out. Look down for the little link that says Full Body Reset Meal Plan. This is a meal plan that I constructed just for you. Don't worry, you're not going to spend hours in a kitchen. Okay. It is a meal plan that has you be able to use plandovers, as I call them, because that gives us more efficiency with our time, right? You've also got your grocery list, so you can just pipe it into Instacart, or you can take it with you to the store and not even have to think twice. And then all the recipes are there, and they're super easy to make. If there's a protein in there you don't really care for, simply swap it out for something you like. Not an issue. They're easy to make. They don't take a lot of time, or they don't require a lot of ingredients. So look down in the description below this video for your Full Body Reset meal plan, and you will be well on your way to making you more invincible and resilient to the world that we're in. Thank you so much for being here. Can't wait to see you on a future episode. God bless.